Liberty Station. So in 2012, Liberty Station was redeveloped using through a redevelopment agency. In 2012, then Governor Brown went ahead and dissolved redevelopment agencies. As part of that dissolution, all redevelopment agencies throughout the entire state were required by law to divest themselves of any properties that were redeveloped using redevelopment funds, including Liberty Station. Now, for most redevelopment agencies and for most properties, it was a pretty straightforward transaction because they were able to sell those properties at market value because most of them didn't have these kind of complicated leases. What makes Liberty Station unique, and is definitely kind of like makes a lot of people, especially when they kind of hear the headline and see the surface level, raise an eyebrow, is that because Liberty Station, part of the deal was the private developer took basically all the capital risk at the city's behest. The city said, we want a private developer to come in here. The city says, we don't want to touch this. We don't want to subject taxpayer dollars to any downside risk. Private company, you take it over.
Corky McMillan was involved.
Corky McMillan, and then I forget who the second. Proposer was. But yeah, there's two at the end there. McMillan on point. Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Bye. See you later.
So they took all the risk, and that's why they kind of had this sweetheart lease.
Yeah.
Well, if you ask McMillan, like, well, we took all the risk. It wasn't really a sweetheart to us.
Yeah.
If they didn't have that deal, no one would have redeveloped it. So it gets redeveloped. Then the state says, all right, well, now you have to divest yourself of it. Well, because they're on this lease where they're only receiving $1 a year, well, the net present value of $1 a year over the next 50 years
you screwed the economic value.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I'll answer this from, if you look at it from a legal standpoint, the city doesn't really have, good to see Eric, a legal leg to stand on. Why? Because the state says as part of redevelopment, you're only allowed to hold on to it as a city if you have legitimate plans to redevelop it. Well, most of Liberty Station is historically designated. It's already been redeveloped. So unless the city comes up with a new way to develop these federally designated historic properties, it really doesn't have a strong argument. However, the law is gray. And so future redevelopment, the state doesn't specify what that really needs to entail. So just by putting it on your future redevelopment list, you might give the city enough coverage to go ahead and hold on to that property. I think based on the intent of the law, the city probably should be required to sell it, but that grayness makes it legally questionable whether or not a judge will ultimately decide to force the city to sell. That all being said, I'll look at it this way. You have the current owners, the current leaseholders in the city that are going to be involved in litigation for maybe a couple more years. They're going to spend a lot of money. Let's say hypothetically the best case scenario, is in 40 plus years, thereabouts, the city regains control of that property. What are they going to do with it? They have no business managing anything. They've done a horrible job. So what they're going to do is they're going to hire someone to do the property management, a private company. And in exchange for hiring them, that private property management company is going to take the lion's share of any revenue that would otherwise come in. Now, whatever revenue is left over, the city can use to actually do some public benefit, maybe build out an aquatic center 40 plus years from now. My whole thought is, look, rather than spending years in litigation, and then best case scenario is 40 years from now, we have some money coming in to then build an aquatic center, knowing that the rest of Liberty Station is still going to be under private management. Why not work out a deal with Seligman to say, you guys take over, build us a new aquatic center. You take over all the public facilities right now, and you're going to be held responsible for maintaining them to a certain standard to relieve the city's financial burden. That, to me, plus some, would be a good public-private partnership that we could do right now.
Well, throw in an OBP or two.
100%. Oh my God. Yeah, dude, I like that. Yeah, absolutely.
I got one other, just basic, I know this is complicated, but thank you for that. I'm going to post this.
Please, do it.
Okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. I go to the Point Loma Sport Club. We use Trader Joe's. We're down there at the theater. We're there all the time. It's one of our favorite places. Yeah. If it gets sold to some effing developer who's going to maximize it, are they going to tear it down, raise the rent, screw it up? That's my concern.
Yeah, great question.
Okay.
So part of what the city could actually negotiate a deal. Well, once again, because most of the buildings are historically designated,
they can't tear them down.
They can't. No, they have to maintain them as is, which also then makes a big question mark of, well, what is the city going to redevelop? Like, there's really no redevelopment to be done legally. But what's also interesting is that if the city were to enter into a sale, They could have all these different stipulations of parking must always be free. I would trust a city enforced agreement that parking must always be free if it's in possession of a private landlord than it would the city to keep parking always free based on their recent track record. So there's a lot of stuff that the city could extract in exchange for selling the property, which once again, if you look at the alternative, okay, 40 years from now, maybe the city has a little bit more money coming in to do what with? Do some private public partnership? Let's just do it right now. Yeah.